Hey everyone, it's Marco again. I want to give you some insights into how I play prop PvP. It's a lot different from things you may have heard of from players like Swifty, for example, who kind of got into prop PvP in Season 7 of Wrath of the Lich King, but we're going into Season 5, so things are not going to work the way things have worked on, some private servers that we won't name. Things in Season 5 are going to be a lot different, and here's how I played and how I got Gladiator early on in Wrath of the Lich King as a prot warrior. I'm going to go over how I'm currently playing the pre-patch with 2 different builds and specs and the gear associated with those specs. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen at 80, but you can look forward to a level 80 video as well. Okay, so right now, this is the most easy to achieve build that you can as a prot warrior. It's basically all the gear you would get as an arms warrior. Okay, and I focus on crit, strength, and obviously the resilience and stamina that you get from this gear. Now, I did look into running with a fist weapon because I love fist weapons, but then I noticed something very interesting about the fist and axe. On an orc, you have the orc racial now applies to both the axe and the fist weapons. You would think they're equal, right? It actually turns out the axe is better, and here's why. It's a one-handed weapon, meaning you could equip this in your offhand if you wanted to go Fury or something while leveling, or if you wanted to try a Devastate build where you don't use a shield. So this actually is superior to the Brutal Gladiator's Right Ripper. Rip the Ripper, I actually really enjoy the animation and how you sometimes punch with your shield. It's really comical, but the axe is actually better. So what I did, because I already had the Ripper, is I put Executioner on the Ripper, and I put Adamantite weapon chain on my one-handed axe. So just like an arms warrior, you're going to want to switch weapons whenever you think a rogue is going to dismantle you. And then instead of switching back to the previous weapon, leave it on, because otherwise you're kind of defeating the purpose. Because you have to wait your full 2.6 seconds when you switch weapons. So if you switch weapons twice, that's 5.2 seconds. You've essentially CC'd yourself for 5 seconds. So it's not worth it. But if you switch to the axe when you're fighting a rogue, you take 5 seconds off the dismantle. That's totally worth it. Otherwise, if I'm fighting a caster, I'll throw on the Executioner. That being said, get block value for your enchant on your shield. And also, you're going to want to get block value from a trinket. Now, with these 2 items having block value on them, Gnomrigan Auto Blocker, I forget how many badges it is. What is it, like 45 or something? There's also Corin's Lucky Coin, which is the same thing, that you'll be able to get in Oktoberfest. I believe we're going to get the level 70 version. With those 2 block items, I'm at 789 block from talents and strength and those 2 items alone. That's not enough to make Shield Slam good, unless you have your cooldowns up, which we'll get into later. The rest of my gear is what you'd expect for an arms warrior. Basically, it's best in slot for Season 4. And obviously, you want your trinket. All this is achievable in a couple of days of hardcore PvP playing, or maybe by the end of the pre-patch for sure. Also, our throwing weapon. I toyed around with going Ancient Amani Longbow, but because I have so little armor pen, I only have 76, it's really not worth putting any more on. Armor pen's really good as you get it into the higher numbers, but it's only 11% right now. If I put this on, it goes up to 2%. It's just not worth the loss of crit and stamina that I want to be as durable as possible. So basically, the way I play this spec is if I have cooldowns up, such as Shield Bash, Shield Block, Disarm, and maybe if I'm enraged from this talent, then I will Shield Slam because it'll hit harder than a Revenge. Otherwise, Revenge and Devastate are going to hit harder than my Shield Slams because I have so little block value. So keep that in mind. Don't go for Shield Slams in this spec unless you have a perfect setup with what I just said. Shield Block, a Disarm, and a Shield Bash to do 30% or 20% more damage from this, 30% more damage with this guy, improved defensive stance on, and then you're also doubling your block value. Also, I haven't played with it too much, but I believe you need to hit your Gnomrigan Auto Blocker before you shield block in order to get the double from it, because shield block when you hit it gives you 100% more block value. I think it's a snap, so you want to hit the Gnomrigan Auto Blocker first. I probably should have tested that before this video. I hope it's not misinformation, but that's what I do. So with the auto blocker on, I'll jump up to 989 shield block, and then with shield block ability popped, I basically have 2000 you know, almost 2,000 block value. That makes the shield slam pretty decent. All right, but when I don't have those talents, I'm just going for revenges and devastates. Now, going into the talent build. Arms, you know, I just did what I could with the few points I had left. You could take the points out of deflection and put them into booming voice to pop rogues out. But I didn't want to get used to booming voice because my level 80 build is probably not going to have it. So that being said, Fury is kind of basic. You know, you're getting armor to the teeth, you're getting cruelty. When we go into protection, this is very much pretty much the stable build I will use at 80. I think one key thing to point out is my toughness is at 0. You could argue that it's worth it to take points out of puncture and put them into toughness and maybe even focused rage if you want, as well as vigilance. These points right here, puncture, focused rage, vigilance, these are debatable. Everything else kind of isn't. Maybe vitality you could argue, but I think the 6% strength is worth it, and the expertise and the stamina. I think this is very good talent, but that's iffy. Other than that, you could take points out of here, and out of here in order to get 5 out of 5 toughness, and that's where the floating points are. But everything else is pretty mandatory. Some people don't get in sight. It's really up to you. In terms of glyphs right now, I'm not going to go over them because they're going to be so different from what you use at 80, and it's going to confuse people. In general, when you get to 80, you're going to want spell reflect and blocking as your majors for sure. Like, you need to get those. The 10% more damage on your shield slam, the 1 second off of spell reflect, it's just too good. Some people will argue shockwave's better to take 5 seconds off it. I disagree. I think getting a couple of extra spell reflects can turn the tide a lot more than 5 seconds off this cooldown down here. In general, though, this is the spec. I won't go over too much of it, but this is a debatable point right here. Some people don't like vigilance. Here's why I like vigilance. I can put it on my healer, and if a pet attacks my healer, I can taunt the pet forever, ad nauseum, because vigilance makes it so you refresh your taunt cooldown. So as the pet is attacking the healer, I can spam taunt. He'll hit my shield, I'll get a block, I revenge the pet. I can kill a pet in like a couple of seconds. So vigilance is really, really strong for that. It also reduces the damage of that target by 3%. So when you add up their resilience, let's look at my resilience here, my 424. If I had vigilance on me, I'd go from 18.7% less damage to 21.7. It's significant, guys. It's a big increase as if they had a bunch of resilience. You know, that's how you have to look at it. It's like you're adding 100 resilience to them. All right, my number might be off there, I'm guessing. I won't go too much into like how I fight stuff. We'll do that in another video. For now, I just want to get a video out that we can point to on the stream and say, okay, here's my talent build. So now you've seen the gear and you see the talents. This is a revenge, devastate, shield slam build. Okay, that's the order of the abilities you want to use when they're available. And then you shield slam if you want to get rid of like a priest bubble, or if you've popped all your cooldowns and you're trying to do a big slam. You'll see slams upwards of like 5 or 6k. All right, and your revenges can hit almost that hard too. So that being said, now we're going to move into the next spec. Okay, this is my clown suit, honk honk. And now I have the new spec. Okay, now my block value is 1683. This is a slightly harder to achieve set. It is not best in slot. It's somewhat best in slot. It's missing a lot of good items, such as the girdle off of Black Temple that would add another like 56 block value. On my other Marco Polo on Mankrik, I have, I believe, almost 1900 base block, and he has a lot more of the higher level gear and a lot more of the better enchants and stuff. But this guy is pretty solid with that 1683. The gear is a real mix of random stuff. I'll try to go slow over here so you can pause the video and then go look up where you can get the items. For example, these shoulders, they're kind of iffy whether you want to use these, but this is a gimmick spec, so I don't really care about my survivability. They're from a quest in Netherstorm, which you might have already completed, unfortunately. But shoulders are kind of hard to find a good block value shoulder, so this is kind of solid, actually. Everything else you either get from badges or, you know, something as low as Karazhan, for example. I have Executioner because I don't care about my survivability. I want to do as much damage as possible, so that'll give me some armor pen. And here I am using the Ancient Amani Longbow for a little bit of armor pen. And I think my armor pen's at like almost 5% on this build. It's not that great, but it is what it is. Let's see, keep going up. Hopefully you guys can pause the video and then you know kind of stuff to shoot for. Again, for this belt, I really want it to be the belt of Black Temple Trash, or Boss, I forget what it's from, but it's in Black Temple if you look it up. Okay, so this spec is where I got my 13,900 crit, and that wasn't even a perfect setup. I believe I can get 15k in the spec currently with the perfect setup. What's the perfect setup? Full Sunders. You pop your trinket here, you pop shield block, disarm, shield bash, swap into Zerker, recklessness, you know, maybe at the blood rage, and then slam. And you can do upwards of 15k with the Zerker buff in Warsun Gulch. So that is like maximum damage. Obviously that's a lot more than the other spec. Here's the problem with this spec though. It's completely reliant on cooldowns. You're basically like a Palm Pyro mage. Once you've used your shield block, you know, and especially your recklessness, because you only have 20% crit, you're pretty much useless. So this spec is if you just want to do maximum damage and see how hard you can hit with your build. As you can see, it has Impale 20%, so that's really good. It has Tactical Mastery, which is really necessary in order to get the disarm and the shield block off without having to hit blood rage. So you can save your blood rage for the shield slam at the end when you switch stances. Why do you switch stances? Because you're doing 5% less damage in defensive stance. All right, so what else is different about the build? You'll notice I don't have Vigilance. You notice I really focused on Focused Rage and Puncture this time around because I want my Devastates to be as cheap as possible so I can get them up quickly. And if you were running this build for fun, you'd probably go with the Glyph of Devastate, so it would take less globals to max it out. Currently in the pre-patch, you don't have access to any of the other glyphs that really make your shield slams hit harder, so that's pretty much all you would use. Maybe you'd get something like the Heroic Strike glyph or something like that, or Glyph of Revenge. Other than that, you just get down to critical blocks so you can get that increased critical hit damage on your shield slam, and also Devastate, so it's easier to stack those Sunders with the glyph. It's a pretty simple, you know, strategy there. There's not much else to it. This is a clown suit. You have far less resilience, you have far less health. I'm almost 13k with all this gear, and a lot of this gear is achievable by anyone. I don't have any tier 6 gear on. A lot of this stuff is, you know, tier 1 or tier 2 and was achievable in phase 2 of the game. Maybe 2.5 actually, because some of this is Zulaman, right? Other than that though, I don't want to go too much into playing the specs. I just wanted to show off, here's how you at least get started, and the 2 different warrior specs that I've run that you've seen me use in videos. And in the stream, we're going to have like an exclamation point build or something, and then you can find out how I spec. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this gives you a little insight into PvP. The Prot Warrior PvP has been absolutely insane. It's been so much fun to play, and I'm looking forward to doing it more on stream. Getting 1500 honor in AV, for example, is hilarious, and we're going to keep doing that with triple healers and a Prot Warrior just shockwaving an entire enemy team. It was a blast last time we did it. Alright, so definitely check out the stream, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I'm really excited about the growth, and I'm hoping that we can ride the wave into Wrath of the Lich King and, you know, grow the channel. Thanks again, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Good luck and have fun.